which is climate change. Climate change. What does climate change mean? What are the effects of climate change on human and plants? You know, the effects of climate change on our environment. You know, how does this affect our crops? How does this affect our environment? What does it actually mean? And that's what we'll be talking about today. I'm not in the studio alone. I'm with my guest, and my guest is Mr. Ogunleye Samuel, the Director of Climate Change and Renewable Energy Department. Mr. Adeleke Samuel, good morning.
Good morning.
Yeah.
My pleasure to be here this morning.
And how are you feeling today?
I'm good. I'm good.
Good. What today we'll be discussing about climate change. And you as a director of Climate Change and Renewable Energy Department, I want to believe that you will have a lot to say about climate change and everything that has to do with climate change. But first, our viewers at home would like to know what climate change actually means. What is climate change?
Thank you very much. I want to say good morning to each and every one of us here. I want to say specifically that the issue of climate change is not peculiar to Osun State. It's a global phenomenon that the whole world is trying to address as it is an urgent issue at hand, and it simply means a change in the natural course of life as planned by God as a result of natural occurrences, and most importantly as a result of the activities of human beings in our environment. So in a simple term, yeah, it is a change in the course of natural plan, natural ways of living in our environment.
What are the causes of climate change?
Like what I said earlier on, yeah, climate change can be brought about by natural events, yeah, like a volcano eruption. It can also be brought about by human activities, like burning of fossil fuel, like not being friendly with our environment. Like I said earlier on, the way God planned the whole thing for us is for us to really enjoy the goodies of nature. But when we begin to look at advancement, when we begin to embrace industrialization, when we begin to embrace anti-natural tendencies, then the process of altering the nature begins. So it is a daily activities that we embark upon in the name of technological advancement or industrial revolution.
Good. Right here we have lots of causes of climate change. I'll read them to you now. So we'll pick them one by one and we'll explain them in summary. First, we have manufacturing of goods. Second, we have cutting down forests. Then third, we have using transportation. Then fourth, we have powering buildings. Then five, we have production of food. Now, under manufacturing of goods, how do you think that manufacturing of goods, or how would you describe manufacturing of goods, to be one of the causes of climate change?
Thank you. I said in the course of my introduction aspect of my brief, I said when humanity when we began to embrace industrial revolution, there is no development that will not come with its attendant challenges. So when we talk of industrial revolution, we are talking of the private sector that are delving into production of goods, manufacturing of goods and services. Like for example now, the one that is very, very relevant to us in Osun State is the smelting industry. We have one in Ekirun, we have one in Ife. Now, by the reason of their activities, they are directly impacting our environment as a result of the process that culminates into the production of their end products. Of recent, we were directed by NCCC, the National Council on Climate Change in Nigeria, to conduct the carbon footprint in Osun State, and we had to visit some of these industries to ascertain their carbon footprint. And this is occasioned by the activities that leads to the production of their end products. So when it comes to manufacturing of goods, there are serious and dangerous emission of what we call greenhouse gases into our environment. And in a simple term, what greenhouse gases does, what they do, they trap the sun radiation, which in turn increases the temperature of the earth. And when the temperature of the earth increases, it leads to what we call global warming. And global warming translates to what we all know as climate change today. So production of goods will simply lead to emission of greenhouse gases, and that in turn will lead to global warming, which we all know, which will result into what we are discussing today as climate change.
Good. Thank you for expatiating more on that manufacturing of goods as some of the causes of climate change. Then move to the second one.
You talk of deforestation.
Good. Yeah, that's what I mean.
Deforestation is all about reducing or reduction of our forest cover by cutting down of trees.
Good.
The way God is so magnanimous to us, especially when it comes to nature. There are some things that we call in our circle, we call them carbon sink. One of the carbon sink that God made is trees. They help in sinking carbon, because like what I said, I mentioned, I used the term the other time, greenhouse gases.
Exactly. Greenhouse
gases, example of one of the greenhouse gases is carbon dioxide. We have methane, we have nitrous oxide, and the rest. So carbon dioxide is one of the GHG gases that are released in the course of manufacturing. Now, we have what we call carbon sink. Carbon is a major element in carbon dioxide. Carbon is absorbed. We all know from our basic biology, we inhale oxygen, while we release carbon dioxide.
Yeah, that's right.
But the reverse is the case for the plants. They take in carbon dioxide while they release oxygen into the environment. Now, so by so doing, they serve as carbon sink and they store them. But when we now begin to cut down all these trees, indirectly we are reducing the potential of the earth to be able to store carbon. And by so doing, we are doing two dangerous things. Number one, we are reducing the volume of carbon sink that we have, and also we are also exposing the earth to direct interaction with what we call electromagnetic radiation.
So how does that affect?
When we have it's like when you have banks. You know, banks, you are to go and store your money there. But in a situation where, for example, you have 20 banks in Osun State, maybe because of armed robbery and some other incidences, you have to reduce them. Maybe some run away from, they run away from Osun State and now from 10 you now have 5. So automatically there will be a sort of pressure on those 5s, and by so doing you begin to have money being kept in our home instead of having them in the bank. So the same thing is where you're supposed to have carbon to be stored and there is no means for them to be stored, automatically the excess ones will also, will always be affecting state of things in our environment.
I like that. Well, if you're just joining us, we have been talking about climate change. Climate change. And you see, our guest has been talking to us, has been digging deep and expatiating more on what climate change actually means. And who is our guest? Our guest is Ogunleye Samuel, the Director of Climate Change and Renewable Energy Department. He's been talking to us about what climate change actually means. Well, just as we continue, we have other causes of climate change. We have, you know, like you said, we just talked about deforestation, and now we're talking about using of transportation, automobiles, and.
Thank you very much. One of the major source of greenhouse emission in the world today, transportation accounts for almost 40% of it. In a simple term, when we turn on our automobiles, there is a place we call the exhaust. When the engine begins to run, most especially engines that are run, that are petroleum based, like we call it petrol, engines that are run on petrol, PMS, yeah. On PMS. When the engine begins to run, what comes out from the exhaust, part of it is what we refer to as emissions. We call them carbon emission, or we call them greenhouse gas emission. And they discharge them directly into our space. And just like what I said earlier on, when greenhouse gases are released into our space, they bring about what we call global warming, and ultimately it leads to what we are all discussing today, which is climate change. So when they are released into our space, they change the natural course of life. They increase the carbon count in our space. And when that begins to grow up, automatically it will affect the weather, it will affect... In fact, climate change is a cross-cutting phenomenon. It affects the health, it affects the agri, it affects waste management. So that is how it affects our day-to-day activities. So release through the exhaust pipe, whether it is a mobile emission generating automobile or the one that are not mobile.
Okay. Now that we've talked about, we've talked about the main causes of climate change. What are the effects of climate change?
Thank you very much.
The effect of climate change on human.
Like what I just said before this particular question, I said climate change is a cross-cutting issue. When climate change is not well mitigated or adapted to, the effect is going to be monumental. For example, when there is a release of these gases into our space, there will be a rise in temperature, which we all know as global warming. And where there is a rise in temperature, outbreak of diseases are very, very possible. Increase in temperature will always aid the multiplication of microbes and all that. So in a very warm environment, there are potentials of having outbreaks of diseases. and that is on the part of the health sector. In the case of agriculture, when you can see there is a change in pattern of rain now. Ideally, if we are to follow the normal course of life, rain is supposed to start like April to October. But now, there is a break. And some of my friends that are into farming, they planted maize. Their maize are not really growing as expected. Whether we like it or not, that is going to have a serious effect on food production. The case of waste management too. When waste are not properly managed, automatically we have increase in cases of flood, because waste that are not properly managed, they find their way into the water course or streams, and they obstruct the flow of water, which ultimately lead to what we have once experienced in Osun State, which is flooding. So we have several ways where we face the effect of climate change, and I want to use this opportunity to appreciate the governor of this state, His Excellency, Governor Ademola Jackson Adeleke. He has been doing a lot in the area of mitigating the effect of climate change and also adapting to the effect of climate change.
Okay, thank you so much. Now we've talked about how it affects lives, how it affects people, and how it affects our environment, our environmental impact, But now let's delve into the flooding part. Now, as a state of Osun, how can we, or how do we control, because either we like it or not, flood or severe storm is also an effect of climate change. So now, how do we control this flooding in Osun State?
Well, the way I will try to make an attempt to answer that question is this. For us to really tackle the issue of flooding, we must be ready to address it globally. Flooding, what brings about flooding is when there is a sudden rise in the volume of water that goes into our water bodies. When there is a rise in the volume, automatically water will surely find its level. When the capacity of holding the water is exhausted or is exceeded, automatically the water will have to spill over, and it will result into what we are discussing now, which is flooding. The first thing that is expected of us is to prepare very well, proactively, for the rainy season. My colleague in the department, we usually assume that it is during the dry season that they should be going to sleep and all that. But that is the time they go into the drawing board to plan ahead, to project. That is one. Proper planning and proper projection. That is one on the part of the technocrat. Then on the part of the government, I want to give it to Osun State. It's been a while that we have experienced flooding in Osun State, and that is due to the proactiveness of the state executive. They made funds available for dredging of water courses, for reconstruction of culverts, and some other blockages in the course of the river course. So, on that aspect, the government of Osun State is doing the best they can do for now, though we are still anticipating interventions and grants from foreign bodies, and that is that on the part of the government. Then we come back to us. So you see, I mentioned the issue of improper management of waste. When we refuse to imbibe the culture of proper waste management, then we will continue to face the problem of flooding. Because, like what I always tell people, you are driving your car. My car is a mobile dustbin. I don't allow my children to throw. But in the course of driving, when we take soft drinks or bottled water and all that, they know that they dare not throw out the waste out of the window. they keep them. So when we get home, we dispose properly. So when people don't embrace the culture of proper management of waste, then there will always be tendency for us to face the challenge of flooding.
Very well. Now we'll move to the Yoruba session of this program. Fún àwọn èèyàn wa tó ń bẹ nílé, ohun tí a ti ń sọ̀rọ̀ nípa láti òwúrọ̀ ni àyípadà ní ojú ọjọ́, àyípadà ojú ọjọ́, àyípadà ojú ọjọ́. Àwọn bàbá wa tó ti ń bá wa sọ̀rọ̀ láti àárọ̀, àwọn ni ọ̀gbẹ́ni Ògúnléyè Samuel. Wọ́n jẹ́ olùdarí Climate Change and Renewable Energy Department ní ìpínlẹ̀ Ọ̀ṣun, now bàbá wa Ògúnléyè Samuel, ní èdè abínibí wa, àwọn fẹ́ kẹ́ bá wa sọ fún àwọn èèyàn tó ń bẹ nílé, kí ni ìtumọ̀ àyípadà ojú ọjọ́?
Ẹ ṣeun gan ni olóòtú. Mo kí gbogbo ará ilé o, ẹ káàárọ̀ o. Òní yóò san wá sówó, yóò san wá sí ọmọ, yóò sì san wá sí àlàáfíà. Lẹ́ẹ̀kan sí, mo wá láti ilé iṣẹ́ ìmọ́tótó àti àyíká àti ti ìpínlẹ̀ Ọ̀ṣun. Tí n bá ní kí n padà sí bí ìbéèrè tí olóòtú béèrè lọ́wọ́ mi, tá bá ń sọ̀rọ̀ nípa àyípadà ojú ọjọ́, eléyìí ní fi ṣe ìyípadà ojú ọjọ́ wáyé, ó lè wáyé tàbí ó máa ń wáyé nípasẹ̀ àwọn ìṣẹ̀lẹ̀ kan tí àwa ènìyàn tá a lágbára lé lórí. Irú ẹ̀ ní kí ilẹ̀ kó máa rí àti oríṣiríṣi irú àwọn nǹkan báyẹn, tàbí àwọn ìgbésẹ̀ tí àwa gan ń gbé. Àwọn ìgbésẹ̀ tá à ń gbé, bóyá nípa ìgbésí ayé wa, bá a ṣe ń gbé ìgbésí ayé wa gẹ́gẹ́ bí àgbẹ̀ tàbí gẹ́gẹ́ bí oníṣẹ́ ọwọ́, èyíkéyìí iṣẹ́ tó bá wù ká yàn láàyò, tí ìgbé ayé wa tí ò bá ti jẹ́ eléyìí tó rílì fi ìfẹ́ hàn sí ibi tí à ń gbé, sí agbègbè wa, kò sí bí ojú ọjọ́ ò ṣe ní yípadà ojú ọjọ́ sì rèé, kì í ṣe nǹkan tó kàn déédéé ṣẹlẹ̀ lójijì. Ìyípadà ojú ọjọ́ ni bí àyíká wa ṣe ń gbìyànjú láti dojú ìjà kọ wá nípasẹ̀ bí a ṣe ń hùwà sí àyíká wa. Bóyá kí n kúfẹ̀ kan sọ báyẹn.
Kí wá ni ó máa ń fa àyípadà ojú ọjọ́ yìí gan-an?
Ẹ rí pé mo ti sọ ṣáájú nígbà tí mò ń sọ̀rọ̀, ìgbé ayé wa gbọ́dọ̀ jẹ́ eléyìí tó fi ìfẹ́ hàn sí àyíká wa. Gẹ́gẹ́ bí àpẹẹrẹ, nígbà tó ti di pé gbogbo àgbáyé ti ń wò yí pé ọ̀nà kan tí ọrọ̀ ajé àgbáyé tún ṣe lè yí padà ni pé kí a máa dá iléeṣẹ́ ńláńlá sílẹ̀. Now kò dẹ̀ sí bá a ṣe sọ pé a fẹ́ jẹ́ kí ètò ìṣúná wa kó gbòòrò sí nípasẹ̀ dídá iléeṣẹ́ ńláńlá sílẹ̀ tí a ò ní bá àwọn ìpèníjà kan pàdé. Gẹ́gẹ́ bí àpẹẹrẹ, kò sí iléeṣẹ́ tó jẹ́ pé wọ́n ti lo pẹtiró. Àwọn èròjà kan sì wà tó bá di pé a da pẹtiró yìí tá a dà sínú àwọn irinṣẹ́ tá à ń lò láti fi pèsè àwọn nǹkan tí a fẹ́ pèsè níbi iléeṣẹ́ wa. Àwọn èròjà kan wà níbẹ̀ tó jẹ́ pé tí ẹ́ńjìnì wa bá ti bẹ̀rẹ̀ sí lo epo yẹn, àwọn èròjà yẹn wọ́n máa ń gbójú agan sí àyíká wa ní ọ̀nà tí ò tọ́ ni. So irú àwọn èròjà yẹn tó bá ti di pé wọ́n bẹ̀rẹ̀ sí dà sí àyíká wa, tí wọ́n bẹ̀rẹ̀ sí dà sí, tí wọn ò dáwọ́ dúró, tí wọn ò ronú bí wọ́n ṣe máa dín wọn kù, tó bá ti di pé wọ́n pọ̀ dé ìpele kan, àwọn ìyẹn ni wọ́n bẹ̀rẹ̀ sí gbójú agan sí àyíká wa. Ìyẹn láti wá máa rí bí ooru kan dédé máa mú lábàádì, ló di pé omi yalé, àgbàrá ya ṣọ́ọ̀bù àti oríṣiríṣi àwọn nǹkan báyẹn. So ìhùwàsí wa ló ń fà á tí àyíká wa ṣe ń gbójú agan sí wa ní eléyìí tí a ń pè ní àyípadà ojú ọjọ́.
Kí wá ní ipa rẹ̀ gangan lórí àwọn nǹkan ọ̀gbìn wa?
ẹ ṣe gan ni olóòtú eléyìí tó dàbí ẹni pé ó mú wa ó rílì ń bà wá nínú jẹ́ jù òun ni bí àwọn àgbẹ̀ wa tàbí àwọn tí kò gba àṣẹ lọ́wọ́ ìjọba tí wọ́n ṣe ń bọ́ sínú igbó ọba tí wọ́n sì ń gé igi ọba bó ṣe wù wọ́n. now ẹ jẹ́ kí àlàyé lè kó lè yé wa dáadáa. Ọlọ́run sò dára sí àwa ẹ̀dá ọmọ ènìyàn púpọ̀ nígbà tí ó ń dá ohun gbogbo tó yí wa ká. now àwọn nǹkan kan wà tí à ń pè ní àwọn nǹkan tó máa ń gba nǹkan kan tá à ń pè ní carbon. Ó dàbí ilé ìfowópamọ́ téèyàn ń fi nǹkan pamọ́ sí ni. Àwọn nǹkan yẹn Ọlọ́run dá wọn. Ẹ rí i pé Ọlọ́run dáadáa lọ́lọ́run wa kò fẹ́ wàhálà fún wa gẹ́gẹ́ bí ẹni tó dá. Àwọn nǹkan kan ìkan nínú àwọn nǹkan tó máa ń gba ewu tó yẹ kó ṣẹlẹ̀ sí àwọn èèyàn inú rẹ̀ ni igi, àwọn igi oríṣiríṣi igi tó wà nínú igbó. Bọ̀ nípasẹ̀ àìní ìkọbi ara sí tàbí ìgbésí ayé kò kàn mí tí àwọn èèyàn kan ṣe tí wọ́n wọnú igbó ọba tí wọ́n bẹ̀rẹ̀ sí gégi bígbà tó jẹ́ pé ntọ́lọ́run ti pèsè láti dáàbò bo àwa ènìyàn àwọn èèyàn lọ ń dẹ́mi wọn lógbodò. So tó bá dẹ̀ ti di pé wọ́n bẹ̀rẹ̀ sí gé igi bó ṣe wù wọ́n gbogbo ohun tó yẹ kó ṣe àǹfààní fún àyíká wa kò sí ń bẹ̀ mọ́. Olóṣèlú dàbí pé gbogbo àwọn èròjà tó gbójú agan sí àyíká wa wọ́n á bẹ̀rẹ̀ sí pọ̀ sí oru àbádì bẹ̀rẹ̀ sí mú oríṣiríṣi tí ò ṣẹlẹ̀ tẹ́lẹ̀ ó bẹ̀rẹ̀ sí ń ṣẹlẹ̀.
Òun náà ti gbọ́ lẹ́nu àlejò wa ọ̀gbẹ́ni Samuel Ogunleye. Ó jẹ́ kó yọ ayé pé bí a ṣe ń lo agbègbè wa òun ló ń fa àyípadà ojú ọjọ́. Bí a bá lo agbègbè wa dáadáa àyípadà ojú ọjọ́ kò ní ṣe lòdì sí wa. So bí a ṣe ń lo agbègbè wa òun ló máa fà á bí àyípadà ojú ọjọ́ ṣe máa ṣe sí wa. Then nípa ìmọ́tótó àwọn tí ó máa ń ju ìdọ̀tí sójú ọ̀nà àwọn tó máa ń ju ìdọ̀tí sí ibi tí omi máa ń gbà àwọn tó ń ju ìdọ̀tí sínú gọ́tà ẹ jẹ́ ká dáwọ́ rẹ̀ dúró. Ẹ má jẹ́ ká máa ju ìdọ̀tí síbi kíbi tá a bá rí. Ẹ jẹ́ ká máa ju ìdọ̀tí wá síbi tó tọ́ àti ibi tó yẹ kí àyípadà ojú ọjọ́ kó má bàa ṣe lòdì sí wa. Ẹ jẹ́ ká máa ju ìdọ̀tí wá síbi tó tọ́ àti sí ibi tó yẹ. Mr. Ogunleye Samuel, I want to say thank you for coming on the show. Due to our time constraints, we won't be able to go further than this, but we must appreciate you for coming.
Thank you very much.
Yeah.
Thank you very much.
And also want to appreciate Mr. Ogunleye Samuel entourage, starting from Mr. Kendi Babatunde, Mr. Osogbo Ebenezer, Mr. Odelola Damilare, and also Mr. Olabumi Sikiru. I want to thank you for coming with Mr. Ogunleye Samuel on the show. And also want to appreciate people behind the success of this program. I want to appreciate our cameraman and also our producer Shola Ogunleye, our supervising producer Olasukanmi Oyebayo, and also our executive producer Adeola Adebayo. I want to say thank you for making sure that this program is a success. Well, I still am your host, Abayomi Adeyemi. Join us for another interesting edition of AM Cafe next week, same time, same channel. And for now, I'll say bye-bye.